I recently had the opportunity to visit the latest exhibition in the V&A Museum. It's the first fashion exhibition on African fashion of this scale in the V&A, and it's honestly one of the best fashion exhibitions I've ever been to. I was able to interview the curator for the exhibition, Christine. She discusses the key themes in the collection and why it's important to be talking about African fashion right now.
I'm Christine Checinska and I'm lead curator of the Africa Fashion Exhibition.
Okay, so this is the V&A's first African exhibition on this scale, so why now and what was important in having it now?
The African fashion scene is so globally important, so impactful, that we really could not ignore it. It had to be showcased now. And what's important for us is to show the buzz of the scene, the diversity of the scene. The fashion scene across the continent is so diverse, so innovative, so creative, that was what we wanted to show.
So to you, what is the general importance of African fashion?
The general importance?
Yeah.
I feel it's just important full stop. It's important period. It's not really general importance. But I think what excites me and what inspires me is the creativity on the continent. So whether that's the historical period, people like Al-Fadi and what he was doing around fashion and how he saw fashion as a vehicle for peace and social change. He saw fashion as a way of connecting people across the continent and beyond. And also today in the contemporary designers' work, when you think about someone like Boo Boo at I Am Sigo or Tebi Magugu, for example, Artsy at Maison Artsy, they're all yes, they're designers, that they're rewriting the script on what fashion design is.
Yeah.
So many of these designers, they will be making films, they will be styling shoots, they will be creating art installs, but they'll also, within their own fashion practice, they have this wonderful agility around their creativity where on the one hand they might be making something in a factory, but then they'll apply a hand technique, a hand embroidered technique or a cutwork technique, in the case of Christy Brown, for example. So it's the creativity and the agility of these contemporaries on the continent that I really feel, and the team really felt, we had to showcase. Yeah. And I almost feel that you see it across art, music and fashion at the moment. If you think about music, we have the Burna Boy piece in the show, Show Majosi. Again, African creativity just cannot be ignored.
Yeah. So how did you overcome the challenge of trying to put together all the different countries and cultures and heritage all into one exhibition? How exactly do you do that?
Well, all we could ever do is a glimpse, because there are 54 countries, and what we went for is to show a glimpse of the diversity, so go wide and deep within that tiny glimpse, if you like. And so across the two floors we have around 25 countries represented, but we did that deliberately because we wanted to blur those colonial boundaries really between north and south, east and west. We wanted to blur that, and we wanted to say that as African creators we've always been cosmopolitan. Africans have always travelled. No culture is pure. There is that complexity already within it, and we wanted to give people a taste of that in the exhibition. And so really it was a coming together as a team, having done research on which creative designers had stories to tell, which had a sort of a luxury, definitive handwriting, but a thought behind their work. So in Afrotopia, for example, it's all around narrative fashion. Designers like Sally Roby Kane that explores Afrofuturism, now Sarati who explores non-binary identities. So many of the designers that we ended up selecting use fashion as a tool for commentary, and so that was kind of one level of edit that we did. But I think you could create a show with everyone that's been edited out, and so it was really down to the research that we all did as a team. We worked with a consultant researcher, Sunny Dolat, who's based in Kenya, and so he was out on the continent, because of course this is lockdown, we couldn't travel anywhere. And so we had our own internal team, we had Sunny's input as well, and we pooled all of our research and started editing from that.
Interesting. So can you take me through the key themes in the exhibition?
Okay, so the exhibition is split across two floors, so two historical periods. Downstairs, we actually begin in a contemporary moment where we have Iman Aissi really visually saying African fashions can and are many different things, and designers can choose their own path. So someone like Iman choosing to be part of the salon system in Paris. And so already you begin to trouble people's expectations of what African fashions are. But the rest of the ground floor is given over to the mid-20th century independence and liberation era. So starting there felt so important, really felt vital, because it's a moment of visible agency. It's a moment of ridding ourselves of colonial rule, and there's a cultural renaissance across the arts, including fashion, that happened around that time. Then going through, we look at the politics and poetics of cloth. So the importance of cloth across the continent. So Ella Natsui, the artist, kind of citing Sonia Clarke, or referencing Sonia Clarke, said cloth is to Africans what monuments are to Westerners. So really talking about the importance of cloth on the continent, whether that's draped and wrapped on the body or whether it's tailored as we see now in the contemporary moment. So the meaning that can be gleaned from the wearing of cloth, but in that moment of independence, wearing traditional textiles is a political statement, which often we look back and we forget. So think about Nkrumah taking away his Savile Row suit and dressing himself instead in kente to address the newly independent Ghana. So understanding the power of cloth to speak, that's what that section's about. But it's also a moment of the professionalisation of the fashion industry. So we have the 5 designers that we're focusing on: Al Fadi, Sade Thomas Farm, Kofi Ansa, Chris Seydoux, Naima Benes. They're really the forefathers and mothers of the contemporary scene. It's a moment of professionalisation, and many governments, whether it's Leopold Senghor or Nkrumah, saw the potential of fashion in terms of the economy to help to build up the newly independent nations. So that's why you get this kind of professionalisation in that moment. And I say that what links the 2 floors is photography, because self-representation is as important as self-fashioning to this exhibition. So downstairs in the historical floor, you see family portraits, again, studio photography against James Barlow colour. And of course the importance of James Barlow is now we begin to see the redefinition of what beauty is, who can be beautiful, because of the way he sensitively photographed black skins. Coming upstairs into the contemporary floor, the clusters of designers' works, they're by sort of aesthetic and market, but really came out of the conversations that we had with the creatives, and also telling this story of diversity. So mixology on the one hand, minimalists on the other. So the mixologists are those who mix different cultural references, literally mix different patterns, different colours, different textures in an outfit. And the minimalists, it's all about architectural cutting, minimal use of decoration, minimal use of colour. So already in those first 2 zones showing that African fashions can look like many things. And then even within some of the zones like artisanal, showing the mark of the hand, that might look like almost a rustic piece by Ewa Mete, showing that wonderful space-dyed yarn, hand-woven organic cottons, really textural. But it can also be Imanaisi couture with the bridal gown, with bark cloth, locally sourced bark cloth flowers, and a silken hemp skirt. All of it is handmade. And so again, troubling people's expectations of what African fashions are. So really pushing that point throughout. And so then we go on to something like co-creation. And often when we think about African fashions, we might, some of us, recognise the importance of made-to-order. But again, even within that, we have couture, Kofi Ansa in the Adjay's engagement ensembles. You have Joyce Similou's corner tailor-made frock that's made from fragments, made from scraps of kanga, kitang and gele fabric. And then you also have Maya Tafo's bespoke suits that you can order, velvet bespoke suits that you can order via WhatsApp. So even within that small cluster, we're showing different aspects of what is one form of co-creation or made-to-order. Then as you spiral round, you come into the centre of the circle. So the design of the upstairs floor, the contemporary floor, is a circle, all around collective power. So you kind of walk that sense, that spirit of collective power as you walk the exhibition. So you come into the centre of the circle, into global Africa. So if the exhibition, the bulk of the exhibition is about creativity on the continent, global Africa opens out to the diaspora, that opens out again to everyone. So this idea of Nkrumahs, I'm not African because I was born in Africa, I'm African because Africa's born in me. So this idea of catching the spirit of what Africa might be, and that's what we look at in Global Africa, and that's done through digital platforms, because often that's the first time that many of us encounter African creativity. It might be through a music video, it might be the Burna Boy music video, it might be through a film, it might be through a YouTube TV series. So the digital platform is this place of encounter and connection. That's what takes place in Global Africa. And then lastly, we end on this more reflective note with the stunning photographs by Ib Kamara. And I think for many, Ib Kamara is the African fashion scene, you know. But what was beautiful was his response to our exhibition. So we presented what we were planning to do to him, and he was really struck by the independence era and designers like Chris Seydoux. And he said, I want to shoot those garments, I want to shoot the Chris Seydoux garments on a model now. And so that became the commission with Ib Kamara, the series of black and white portraits of the model Grace wearing Chris Seydoux's pieces that came in through our public call out, and they came in through one of his former models, Liddy Ullman. And so it was a beautiful poetic moment when Liddy Ullman brought her wardrobe of Chris Seydoux garments to Ib Kamara's studio, and he shot those pieces on Grace. You know, and I think for all of us it was quite a moving experience to really kind of elevate those vintage pieces, to really speak to Chris Seydoux's memory. You know, Chris Seydoux really wanted to show the elegance of African women, and so it was almost as though his wish was alive again through Ib's work, and that was something that Liddy Ullman made possible through the call out.
Okay, so lastly, what do you want people's takeaway to be when they come and visit this exhibition?
I'd love people to come away feeling that sense of abundance, feeling inspired, seeing the potential and the contribution of what African fashion creatives are, can be, will be, have been. Really their eyes opened to African creativity, full stop.
Thanks very much for watching. If you can, definitely make a trip down to the V&A and see the exhibition for yourself. You definitely won't be disappointed. And stay tuned for more videos in the future.